Fun fact. Did you know banging your head against the wall burns 150 calories an hour?
You should try that right now.
But I can't get up.
Thank you, Thomas. And that's Thomas Welly with the fun fact of the day here, starting us out after he got the little JT fact in there on our NFL show on Wednesday, bringing us some interesting stuff today.
Thank you.
This is Walk On Report episode 3. We're going to need a quick one today as we're going to get a little baseball in as well. So we're going to go for this one about 30 minutes, and then we're going to close it out and open up the baseball one, which is already posted. So I'll post the Walk On Report right now on Twitter. And Thomas, tell us a little about your ETBU game, just a little fun fact about that game.
Well, ETBU's defense isn't what they thought they were. And I mean, they're still good, but Arden Simmons' offense is just out of this world. He had a guy run for 8 touchdowns. How does that happen? But I think he ran for 7 and then caught 1. And the funny thing is, the funniest part about this whole thing was, oh, by the way, they got beat. HBU got beat. It's fine. D3 football said nothing about this guy. How do you run for 293 yards and 8 touchdowns, and you don't even get a D3 feature? Yeah, it's whatever. Hey, but Arden Simmons has used mate speed this week, so it's gonna be a good one. It's in Abilene. It's in Abilene too.
Go Crew.
So, get some interesting in there.
It's right there.
Yeah, it is right there. Thomas got it. So with that, we'll move into this past week. Some interesting lines we'll go through. We're going to let Randell take over the Thursday game, kicking it off with Texas playing a nice tight one versus Iowa State.
Our defense is no joke right now. Held them to, let's see, quarterback had 246, 3 interceptions, two of which were from Elliott, and against USC, he also had 2. So he has 4 interceptions in the past 2 games. Holton Hill has 3 interceptions. They're battling out trying to get that Thorpe Award right now, and I love it. A lot of people I've heard after this game are calling for Buechel's head. They want Ellinger back in there. But personally, I think that's a little too early. That offensive line is awful right now. Left tackle and right tackle out. Actually, I think so. Connor Williams is out. It actually news today that he's not going to get surgery, and they're going to get a second opinion. So that'll be interesting to watch. So he's out. All-American left tackle out. Right tackle's out. I think the third string tackle is out. So our offensive line is thin right now. So I think calling for his head right now, Shane Buechel's, is a little much because he has no time to throw. We can't get the running games going completely with that offensive line. But yeah, good solid win from Texas, 17-7. See if we can keep doing it against K-State.
I mean, and the biggest thing is going to be the turnaround of the defense. Like you said, Big 12, hey, if you get that going first, that's a step ahead in any other direction any other team has. That kind of will go into a non-defensive game, which shows why having a good defense does matter. Tech OK State. That was the shootout we called and expected, but kind of showing why if you have just a little defense, you can turn the game. And I guess special teams too. If you can't make a 22 and 19-yard field goal, that's a rough day for the kicker there. Thinking an extra point distance, and he doinks it right off the upright, as well as the 22-yarder as well. Not good for the confidence, but it was an exciting game. I mean, we talked about it, the game to watch. If you're not watching Washington State USC on Friday, or if you were watching Clemson beat up on Virginia Tech, this was the game to watch. I mean, I had both games going, but this one was kind of more of my focus, just to watch the nice shootout that we saw. OK State, got a little run for their money with Tech, and I think Tech was going to probably end up with a pretty decent year here.
Yeah. Something I like seeing out of OK State in that game, though, was that they still Justice Hill still got 30 carries. Even though it is a shootout, and everyone knew it was going to be a shootout coming into that game, they didn't try to abandon the run. He still had 164 rush yards. That's pretty good because I thought this was going to be an all Rudolph game that he might throw for he might have 50 attempts, whereas the Tech quarterback did have 46. So
just an interesting game overall.
Yeah.
And then, I know I mentioned the Washington State. We'll go back a day there and mention that because that was probably the definite biggest game. The upset happening that, by the way, Thomas picked USC and Randell and I picked Washington State. The Fighting Cougs. And
I wasn't
Mike
actually
Leach,
on for that one.
but you told us your picks, so we're going to still hold it against you. That nice late game. I mean, man. Pac-12 after dark,
2 o'clock for us. 2 o'clock for us. It was. I was falling asleep, man. I wouldn't have been able to handle that if that would have gone into overtime. I think I would have had to go to sleep.
I mean,
it was a great game, though.
It was. It lived up to the hype. I mean, it's interesting right now. I mean, I know the O-line. I mean, we mentioned, like you said, Texas O-line. I mean, USC's O-line's been getting beat up too. Darnold getting a little, frustrated in the pocket. Doesn't look great. At least he didn't. You could see he felt nervous with the pass rush. But Washington State doesn't have big guys, like they mentioned. Their biggest guys. They have one guy, I believe, pushing 300, and that's it. Their other defensive tackles 240, 250. Hercules. Great man.
Yeah. That run, that 86-yard run by Jones, what's his name? First name is Ronald Jones second. It's like an 86-yard touchdown run. That guy's got some wheels. That was fast. Did not even get touched. That was pretty incredible. But something I'm interested in is Darnold. 15 for 29, 164 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 37 QBR. To me, his draft stock is plummeting. I mean, I know that at the end of the day, they're going to look more at his mechanics and his abilities to throw as a quarterback, but I don't think he's the best quarterback right now. I would pick other people before him. Falk, maybe Falk's draft is rising. He did pretty well, so.
Yeah, I think he does. Falk deserves a decent shot now. I mean, I know he was considered probably a mid guy, but he definitely has to at least be moving up. Thomas, right now, Rosen or Darnold?
Darnold.
Okay, so still sticking with it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm Rosen.
I think after seeing that,
I know you're Rosen.
I think I'm on Rosen. I was on Darnold probably at the beginning of the year, and not more against him, but yes, he did have the hurt offensive line. I just think USC is still a better team than UCLA, and Rosen is carrying his team, and still, I mean, he's expected to do everything and has put up decent fights in every game. So
yeah, I don't think any of those quarterbacks are going to be starting week 1 or even midway through the season, depending on how bad the team is doing, because I don't think any of them are as good as some of the quarterbacks we've seen lately come out.
So get to another big upset. LSU taking the loss at home on homecoming to Troy. Thomas, what's your first thought about that?
Wow. That's all I got to say about that. Just wow. It is insane how they took the loss. Randall.
So if you know anything about how college football works with, big schools bringing in small schools like that, they pay them significant amounts of money to come in and get their butts whooped on homecoming. They paid them almost $1 million, and they come in and beat them. Perfect. So great.
It was
I love LSU too, but that was great to see. It really was.
I mean, yeah, I have no rooting interest against LSU, but I mean, still, to see that happen versus anyone, that's just entertaining.
Yep.
You pay someone that much to watch, and like the homecoming part made it worse. It's your homecoming. This is, you had some tough games early. You're going to come back, just take this nice, you're supposed to have this easy win, take the win, and then move on. Because they're playing Florida next week. But,
and there was probably so many LSU football alums that might have won national championships and stuff there. Just watching them get beat in their own place, paying the other team $1 million. That's great.
And you think they struggle with a different team in Alabama. But this one was called Troy, not University of Alabama. So, that's a little rough if you're just going to struggle. I mean, Auburn and Alabama, man, 0-3 versus the state of Alabama. Not saying they're automatically going to lose to Auburn, but that's going to be rough that the state of Alabama is going to beat you up like that.
Fun fact, DeMarcus Ware and I believe OCU Minora both out of Troy. So there you go.
Hey, they produce a little bit. That's rough to see. Auburn's definitely the number 2 team out of the West behind Alabama. But the East, given a little hope by Georgia, just onslaught at Tennessee on Peyton Manning Day. Peyton Manning Day. It was Peyton Manning Day in Tennessee.
I did not know that part.
It was. He was there. He was walking through this. Yeah, this goes off of LSU here a little bit. You're honoring Peyton Manning. He was there before the game, halftime, big ceremony for him, and you get stomped on at home by Georgia, 41-0. Butch Jones's 5th year here at Tennessee and going in the wrong direction. They were booing him off the field.
That is crazy.
That's rough. That's rough to hear. 41-0. That's
It's ungood. It's ungood, Randall. I'll say it for you.
It is ungood.
It is ungood.
Thank you, Thomas. Took the words right out of my mouth.
But it did vault them to number 5 in the AP polls. That's going to bring a lot of interesting questions. If Georgia can run their side of the East, which, I feel like they should now. They've kind of shown that. And now at this point, their expectations have to be stepped up. Do we see a Kirby Smart, Nick Saban SEC championship game, both undefeated, for a playoff spot?
I'd say so.
Yeah, I think the thing is, though, if, say, Alabama beats UGA in that, and they're both undefeated, it's a really close game, and there's 2 other one-loss teams that have to make the playoffs. Does Georgia still make it?
Yeah,
that'll be interesting. If they run the table and then barely get beat by Alabama, and it's like that situation, I would think they still should.
That kind of brings the question. I asked someone. I know this is going off of just blank teams, but say Alabama, Clemson undefeated,
right.
They win their conference championships as well. Alabama, like you said, it's a good game versus Georgia. We don't have to put a score on it, but it's a good game versus Georgia. But they still win. And then you have a 1-loss Pac-12 winner, 1-loss Big 12 winner, or champion, my bad. These are all champions. Big 12, Pac-12, and Big 10 all have 1 loss, and that's their conference champion. But then you have Georgia in there as well. That's 2 playoff spots for a very interesting scenario.
Yeah, I think you definitely, the first thing I'm looking at is assessing each team's loss that they had. Obviously, if any team loses to a non-top 25 team, and there's 2 teams that lost to top 25 teams, they're out. You're out. Period. To me, I don't care if you beat someone else 100-0 and it was another ranked opponent. If you lose to a non-top 25 and there's other choices of people who didn't lose, or you lost to a non-top 25 and there's people who lost to top 25s, they're out.
I look at strength of competition too. Exactly who they.
Oh,
played.
You mean the schedule as a whole?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's definitely
who they played, and I'd even go as far as diving deeper into the fact of who they played, who they beat, like the opponents they beat, and then the opponents that beat them.
Yeah,
if you got a scrub team beating the team that you just blew out of the water.
Oh, I get what you're saying. Okay, I didn't understand.
And the thing is, I know I'm putting a blank team in there, so I'll give a scenario.
Yeah,
this would be interesting. So, same scenario with Alabama, Clemson. We're gonna leave them alone. Georgia, same thing. They lose their only loss, close game versus Alabama. Then you have Penn State, 1-loss team. Their only loss, Ohio State. Say Ohio State slips up down the road, so they're 2-loss. We put them out of this. So Penn State, 1 loss to Ohio State. They win the conference championship, though. Then we're going to bring in OU. They have that win over Ohio State. They lose to Oklahoma State. That's just a tough game. Oklahoma State takes it. But then they still come back and win the conference, beat TCU and all that. They're up there. Then we're going to bring in Washington. Washington slips up versus Washington State. But, say Washington State takes a loss before that Apple Cup. Washington wins the Pac-12. So now you have one-loss Washington versus Washington State, a one-loss Penn State who lost Ohio State, and a one-loss OU versus rival Oklahoma State with Georgia, one loss in the conference championship.
To me, depending on how close that Georgia-Alabama game were, if say it's a 7-point game or a 3-point game, I'm picking Georgia as one of them. In that scenario where they lose to Washington State, I don't know. That's tough. I'd have to see. It's like impossible for me to pick that right now. I would need to see the entire season played out. I need to look at the scores, who they played, how much they beat who by, and if there's any similar teams. So like Oklahoma and Penn State, if they played any similar teams, see who won by more, that type of thing. But yeah, to me, I definitely probably have Georgia in there just because of the strength of the SEC, and if you can play Alabama that close, I think he should be in it.
Thomas? Same scenario?
I really wish I could say the strength of the SEC this year. Alabama and Georgia are looking like really the only ones that are up to SEC par this year.
Auburn's a throw up right now.
Check this out. Like, I'm not saying SEC is the worst, Power 5, but they're not living up to the SEC brand right now. A&M sucks. LSU just talked about that. It's those rivalries that the LSU Alabama game. That's going to be a blowout. And back when let's go back to the Trent Richardson days where they kicked 6 field goals to beat them like 13, and then the walk-off run by Richardson and the whatever. But the SEC isn't what the SEC used to be. Can we agree on that?
I can agree on that.
But Alabama's still Alabama. So
I don't know if I'd say that the SEC isn't what they used to be, as it is other conferences have gotten better. I think that SEC is still strong, but I think the other conferences just caught up a little bit. I don't think the SEC is the strongest right now.
Right now, I would agree. Yes.
I'm not trying to be biased, but Big Ten's got to be up there.
Yeah, I think the Big Ten's up there definitely.
The fact now that they have all the team in the AP top 10.
They have to be. Penn State, Michigan.
Wisconsin's still undefeated. Ohio State's still 10. Michigan State's not looking terrible this year. They beat Iowa. It surprised me there.
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see. I'll be watching that game, Michigan State, Michigan, this weekend. So.
Yeah, but
ACC is not terrible. ACC is looking decent. Miami.
I honestly don't think there's none of the Power 5 conferences to me are just like, there's not one that you're just like, man, they're just not good. Yeah. Like, all of the Power 5, I think, are pretty good.
Honestly, I think the Pac-12 might be the worst.
Yeah, and they're still good.
They're still good, though, yeah.
Yeah, you still have Washington and Washington State, USC.
Yeah, it's still not going to – USC still, they're a good team still. But after that, Stanford has Bryce Love. Oregon, you don't know. They haven't got to the tough part yet. Utah's still undefeated, so that'll be an interesting test to see where they go. But after that, their depth kind of falls off.
What I'm curious about at the end of the season is these teams like San Diego State, South Florida, UCF. If any of them run the table, do they get in?
See, I haven't been one of the New Year's
That's what this playoff was designed to do.
That's true. I don't see it. I still going with my San Diego State runs their table, goes undefeated, and only makes a New Year's Six bowl.
That right there is the kind of thing that's going to be ticking people off, and then they'll be like, oh, let's get 8 teams in the playoffs. Let's do the 6 like you were suggesting with the byes. I don't know. To me, if they're undefeated, I might put them in there.
So, I mean, we'll get to have more of these interesting talks once it does get further.
Yeah.
American Conference will be interesting because I feel like they might knock each other out, and that's going to hurt them. They'll have good teams, but they'll kind of knock each other out of the consideration. So, but I mean, you never know. I mean, if one of them does just take charge and runs it, the American's not terrible. Navy's still playing well, and they don't have Reynolds.
You know why Navy's playing well?
Team. What?
You know why Navy's playing well?
Triple option.
Triple option.
So we'll move quickly here as we got the last 10 minutes here. Doing mention Bryce Love. Man, I'm sorry. I just have to mention him every show at this point.
How is his name not in consideration for the Heisman? I don't get it.
That's why I'm mentioning him every week. I will mention him every week. I have to. The guy needs it. 98 carries, 1,088 yards. He ran for 300 yards. As person, McCaffrey. Now he does it. So they're easily replacing him. 11.1 yards per carry and 8 touchdowns. But 11.1 yards per carry, the dude's a first down every time he touches the ball. He increased it with the game last week. This past week.
No one sees him play.
He played at 3-2 and still no one's talking about him. He ran for 300 yards in conference. He's 1,000 yards already in 1 month. In a month.
Oh man.
I'm going to talk about him every week. I don't care. Every week he's getting mentioned.
I'm fine with it. If he still keeps performing like that, someone needs to talk him for God's sakes.
I mean, I guess he doesn't receive or he doesn't throw a touchdown like Barkley, but still, 1,000 yards in a month, you have to have at least mentioned. So I hope he gets some more love for love. So I'll do it every week if I have to. So looking ahead at next week as I end that, picks 5 games. This week's a little more calm. We're entering conference play, but this isn't the bulk of the conference play. You know, your big games. You know, we only see 2 ranked games this week. I mean, still good games, but not those big, heavy names that you're going to be seeing very soon. Very, very soon, especially State Fair starting. So that Texas OU game is still going to be interesting. I know it. It'll always be interesting. So on that note, we'll start with Texas. Texas at home versus K-State. Randall.
I'm not going to go too much into it. I think that defense keeps rolling. We get a little bit more stability in the offense. I think we run the ball more. Just run the ball downhill. Chris Warren, Texas wins.
Thomas.
I'd agree. I really like Chris Warren.
I love him.
Because he was there before Foreman, correct? Because he went like Warren, Foreman, and then back to Warren again.
No, Foreman came in a year before Warren. Warren's on his 3rd year, I believe.
Right.
But Foreman would have been on his 4th.
Okay, I remember one Texas year where Warren ran like bukus amounts on everyone, and like I was like, dude, this dude is legit. Kansas State doesn't seem appealing to me at all, so I'm going with Texas.
You know, if it was at K-State, I might question a little more. Good old Bill Snyder Family Stadium, but I'll go Texas as well in this one. I think they'll keep rolling. I think they're getting good momentum here. And then we'll keep it in state. I think this is interesting. American Conference. SMU Houston. It is at Houston, but I think it'll be an interesting game. I'm going to tell mine real quick. I think SMU makes the upset. I like Chad Morris. I think he's going to be the hot coach to get this offseason. Randall.
Pony up, baby. SMU. That's where my grandpa played before he went to the Rams. Got to give SMU the love. Pony up.
Thomas. Okay. I mean, I figured, you got the Houston person. Got to. I mean, I've been a big Houston supporter.
Kyle Allen is my dude. I love
benched
Kyle Allen.
last week.
Don't care. Still like him.
He was benched last week.
I don't care. Still like him.
Okay, fair enough. We'll move into the state of Texas as well still. College game day, ranked matchup number 1. West Virginia travels here to Fort Worth to take on TCU. Thomas.
Go Frogs.
Randall.
You know what? I'll go with West Virginia for the upset. I've been saying that I'm not a huge Kenny Hill fan, and yeah, I'll go West Virginia for the upset. I think they're a pretty good team.
I'm going to go TCU. I might consider sneaking over there to College Game Day. It's not too far away.
There you go.
We'll see.
We'll see you on the hold up a We Talk Sports Good sign.
I'll just hold that up there.
Ooh,
Get
marketing.
up with the Wazoo flag.
Do it.
Dude,
We're talking marketing live right now.
That's ambush marketing, bro. You gotta do it.
Oh yeah.
Shout out to Dr. Hatfield for teaching us that.
All right, so we'll move on to the other ranked matchup. We have Louisville traveling to NC State, who is now ranked. Thomas.
I like Louisville. Just because. I like their uniform.
So Thomas going with the new name for Louisville. Randall.
At NC State, I'll still go with Louisville.
It is interesting. NC State's not, they got the win versus Florida State, who barely beat Wake Forest. I think I'll still go Louisville. Lamar Jackson will still play well. In our last pick'em, I decided to go with this one, give the Pac-12 some love, but Washington State travels to Oregon, so they're going to the zoo. It's their first test after beating a top 5 team. So Washington State, Oregon, Randall.
They keep it rolling. Washington State.
Thomas.
Yeah. Coming off a huge win, they'll ride that momentum wave.
Okay. I, as well, have the Cougars. I just was wondering, it's an interesting matchup because Oregon's still a tough place to play. They are 3-1. You never know. You have that, big win. You had fans charging, storming the field. You get a little too much on that, but I don't think so as well because Leach didn't even seem happy after the win. He gave some interesting quotes at the end. This is Woodstock with clothes on. But
great soundbite.
Even after they got the fumble, he was sitting there on the sidelines, did not look happy still. So
he actually made a face like he wasn't sure. Like, all right, well, that happened.
So I feel like he's going to be able to handle it well and turn him around for next week. You never know. The zoo is a tough place to play, and it's still Oregon. They're still fast.
Michigan State upsets Michigan.
Uh-oh.
Ooh.
You heard it here first.
Okay. Thomas. I guess we'll pick in one more. Thomas.
Just to spite you, Dom, I'll do the same thing. Just I don't care either way, but just to spite Dom.
Fair enough. I'll go Michigan, obviously.
Boo.
Corn is starting. Wilton Spates is out indefinitely with an undisclosed injury. Harbaugh special there. I'm not upset about it at all. If I think O'Korn, he played better than Spates did last week, overall in the season. 1 week he played better. You don't have to do much with the offense with their defense. So if O'Korn just plays good, he'll be better than Spates. And I'm interested in seeing if maybe they let Peters, their redshirt freshman, have a shot because he almost beat Spates out for the job. And Spates came in with a year of starting, and he still almost lost a job to a redshirt freshman. So Peters, interesting name to see if they might get him in and run some extra plays with him. He's a very good athlete. So we'll end there. Great timing. 6:29. We're going to end this broadcast and start up our baseball one. So tune in to We Talk Sport, as our Twitter says. We Talk Sports Good. This was Walk On Report episode 3, and go ahead and open up the walk-off walk, and we'll get you with some baseball. See you there.